YouTube. Today I'll be speaking about how ADOC has become the breeding ground for HIV/AIDS. When you first get into the prison system, it's always some older men that are not on some of the drugs and perversity that other dudes who have done a lot of time in prison has succumbed to, and they'll try to snatch up the younger dudes and play like an uncle or big brother role to them. Try to keep them on the right trajectory and show them that prison does not have to be the end results for you. And they'll encourage them to get in school, get a trade, stay away from drugs, stay away from homosexual activity, that your circumstances basically show you who you are. It doesn't make you who you are, and a wise man know how to take the good out of any situation and make it a positive. And when you get around those type of older guys, they basically tell you the ins and out of prison. And one of the stories they used to always tell us young guys of how sick and perverted some guys can be. You'll hear a story of a facility called Limestone Correctional Facility where they used to house all the HIV/AIDS patients, and they'll tell you stories of how they had to close the yard down because it was a fence that separated the HIV infected inmates from the inmates that was, I guess, STD free. And they'll tell you stories of how dudes used to literally have sex with these guys through the fence. Something your mind couldn't fathom, you just couldn't believe. Like, okay, I understand dudes are some dudes like the same sex, some dudes are, bisexual or whatever, but ain't nobody, man or woman, finna willingly lay up with somebody that has AIDS or has sex with them. But this how I knew it was truth to it. Years later, the HIV patients end up winning a lawsuit about being discriminated against, so they put them in population. And with the regular inmates, in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe these dudes will get away from that type of activity. But it seems as if it increased, because I remember a couple gays coming to the different prison facilities that I was at, and some of them even boldly told these guys that they had the virus, and whatever goes on in prison, everybody gonna know. So it was shocking that it seemed as if those guys chased the hardest. You'll have guys lined up around these guys' rats, shirt off, showing out, trying to get their attention, and dudes be sitting back like, look at these widows, look at these sickos. And when you in prison, every year you have to undergo a physical where they get your weight, get your height, probably get a new picture of you, and they draw your blood. And they running for STDs. And I remember a nurse sat me down and they tried to draw my blood, and I was like, I'd have been through kill 3 times, man. Every time I go through, I pass everything with flying colors. I'm tired of y'all getting my blood. Y'all will get it before I go home. And later, like, you sure? Because it's a couple guys that's finna go home. They came clean, but they leaving with AIDS. And I told her that everybody in prison ain't doing that type of stuff to get that. But this the thing though, it's not only transferred from the sexual activity that goes on in there. You actually have guys sharing rigs. I haven't even heard stories and seen situations where, a dude might owe a dude money, and dude to extract blood from a dude they know have HIV or AIDS, and make another guy shoot it up. How can somebody be so afraid to kill themselves like that? I don't know, but it happens, it occurs. But the reason I address how prison has become a breeding ground for AIDS is because being in prison, you see most of these guys ain't just straight gay. They don't like just only the same sex. Most of these guys are bisexual. They do what they do in prison, hoping it doesn't get out. They still be on the phone with women, because like I said, by all us being encapsulated around each other, you don't miss anything. I promise you, nothing goes unseen in prison. If you let somebody take something from you, the whole prison system gonna know. You lose a fight, the whole prison system gonna know. Whatever goes on, everybody's gonna know, because it's interconnected, even though it's different facilities. So I said that to say this: most guys that indulge in that type of activity in prison, it don't be the guys with, contrary to popular belief, it's not the guys with the long extended stay. It's the guys with the short time, 20 split 5, 15 years with good time. So those are one of the things that'll shock you. These same guys, like I said, most are bisexual, because you'll know they doing this stuff in there, but when a pretty woman come on TV like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, one of them will throw in the air, oh, oh, what I love to do to her. And then, you know, they go on the visitation yard with their wives and churn, and they be on the phone with their wives. And a lot of these guys coming out with AIDS, you know. And I always felt like if somebody came in prison clean, but they contracted the virus while they was in prison, it should be put out there in society. It shouldn't be a secret. But see, guys will sit and talk about everything that happened in prison, but that aspect, but that sector of prison, you know, the homosexuality and how it's rampant. I actually had a situation where I found out that a girl that I knew since she was a little kid was talking to a guy that I did time with. And me being the man that I am, thinking about my sisters, you know, and how my father raised me, or how you protect them. And some of the best protection is informing them of what they possibly get themselves into, and great guidance and advice. It's one of the greatest forms of protection if somebody take heed. So I tell the little girl, you don't need to mess with this guy. I was at a facility with him, and I know for a fact that this guy was letting another man, you know, get him oral sex. The whole dorm knew it. So it ended up getting back with dudes was like, well, couldn't nobody told them that, but Debo, you on some punk stuff, that's fake stuff. Listen, and I'm gonna tell y'all something. Exposing somebody for being a pervert, child molester, rapist, being a drug addict, being a bisexual person or whatever, so a person that you love won't get entangled up with this person. It's not some type of punk stuff. It doesn't make you a rat. You know, it doesn't make you a hater. It doesn't make you a cock block. Because as a man, who want their daughter to mess with somebody like that? Sister, mother, you know, or any female that you know and care about. So, but that's only punk stuff to guys who know they have done things like that. You get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is there's a lot of guys contracting that virus in prison. They bringing it back, right back to society. And there's a lot of guys feel like they ain't bisexual if they doing it in prison. You know, I've actually had an altercation with a guy one day when we watching TV and a little scene come on. I say, hey man, I'm tired of seeing that homosexual stuff, and he just get to throwing stuff in the air and get to tell me how he ain't like that. You know, hit dog holler. This one of these guys that think if you let another man suck your thing, that don't make you bisexual or gay. And when I say, hey man, you tripping, it does. You know, he was ready to fight, I was ready to fight, but dudes diffused it because we're at a lower level facility. So this is the mindset that some of these guys have. If you do it in prison, it doesn't count. If you just let a man suck your thing, it doesn't count. When all that is in fact homosexual, bisexual activity. And all I'm saying is a lot of these guys are contracting STDs. It's proliferating. It's rampant throughout the system. You get what I'm saying? It's rampant throughout the system. And what makes it even more prevalent is it's guys that think that if you do it in there, that doesn't count. Sorry to tell you, it does. And it's to the point where when you look at things from a realistic perspective, you don't pedestalize yourself simply because you're the exception to the rule, because at the end of the day, going to prison shows you're a felon in life. It doesn't matter what you do while you're in prison. If you went to prison, at some point in time, you were failing in life. And that came from making bad decisions. That's where it emanated from, making bad decisions that catch up with you. But I'm saying this, just to say that any female that think it's cute or cool, the light guys that's been incarcerated, the bad boys that's been in and out of jail, you're doing yourself a disservice. First and foremost, a guy that's in the streets and taking chances every day that only warrants death or incarceration can't be in his kid's life, can't really be productive, can't protect and provide. And it's a chance that this guy might be bisexual or some type of creep. Women are doing themselves a disservice. That's the biggest turnoff for me if a woman attracted to me just because I look like a thug or I've been in jail. That's a turnoff because I know what predominantly goes on in jail. That does not make me feel honorable or feel like I'm being pedestalized, because like I said, being the exception, there is no negation to the rule of what you predominantly get from interacting with these type of individuals. Like I said, I know a lot of guys that don't do it. You know, I can attest, because I'm one of them that have never succumbed to that, but still, though, we know what predominantly goes on in the prison system. And I'm telling you, AIDS is spreading at a rapid pace in there, and the guys that are getting HIV AIDS are not guys that's finna be in there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It's guys that got 3, 4, 5, 6 years to do, and coming right back to society. And they chasing the same women that heterosexual man chasing. So, you know, I just wanted to share that with y'all. You know, the best thing to do is get tested together and lock in with somebody you can trust, because This world ain't getting no better. The things you see in prison really show you the state of decadence that society is in. And then on top of what goes on in prison, we heard stories of guys, pastors, different dudes in the street that had HIV/AIDS and they got incarcerated for doing what? Passing it around, disseminating HIV/AIDS and different incurable STDs among other people purposely. So like I said, man, know what you're getting yourself into. Relationships are serious. It's not having sex with somebody. It's not like saying hi and bye. It's not just a formal conversation. It's not just going out to a bar, having fun, having drinks. Sex is one of the most serious things you can indulge in with somebody. And it doesn't matter how society reduces sex to something that's just so common, like just interacting with somebody or socializing. It's not. It's something very serious. That's why the Bible always speaks about sexual immorality and how a person should flee from it. So protect yourself and be well aware of what you're getting yourself into when you messing with, street dudes and so-called thugs or just guys that can't keep their thing in their pants. Because this is something else I noticed too. Most women that have to expose a lot of guys for being DL or down low, a lot of those guys ain't never been to prison, let alone jail, ain't even had a traffic ticket. That's why it be so shocking to a woman and family members and relatives. So like I said, just be well aware of what you getting yourself into. Not just men and women, because at the end of the day, you could be a good man, but get tangled up with a promiscuous woman that has lived a unscrupulous lifestyle where she, did this man, did that man, did that man. You gotta have control and know what you're getting yourself into. So, hey, just word to the wise.